Hi everyone, this is Britton LaTulip. Hopefully by now, you guys, if you're in the group, you know I'm the author of the Art of Raising Children for Greatness series. This book we just released is Education. It's actually the second book in the series. A bunch of you guys have read it. You guys actually did something huge for me. I've written a ton of books. Dino Hunt was super popular. That's a children's book I illustrated. I've written a ton of books, but usually I just kind of let them go out into the world on Amazon, and I sell a little bit here and there, and I gain momentum with time, and that's fine. But when we released this one, you guys made it #1 for a day on Amazon. It was huge for me. I took a screenshot. I think I shared it with you guys. And I just want to say thank you so much. We are a small publisher, and a lot of the big publishers aren't interested in our philosophy, in our worldview. In fact, they're trying to silence it. And a lot of times they prop up people who kind of represent our community, our homeschool community, but maybe have very modern viewpoints on it. So that was awesome. We were #1 for the day, and I thank you guys so much. We have a few more books coming out soon in this series, 3 more. It only gets better. This one is Education. I felt like it was a good place to start. The next one might be more important. It is on character, which is absolutely essential, and I see there's a lot of questions on that. A lot of the issues in homeschooling, a lot of the problems revolve around character. So character is every bit as good as this. It's twice as thick because I think it's twice as important. That's coming soon. Tonight I wanted to answer another question. This question is interesting, and I think a lot of you are probably feeling it. It is, what do I do if I'm feeling so overwhelmed by so many different educational philosophies and all of the different curriculums? I think it's a great question. A few years ago when I started writing these books, when I was writing Revealing School, that was a question I had. We just started homeschooling, and I was trying to figure out, there are so many different methods and everything, so I was like, okay, what is the best one? I think the simplest answer is, it's the one that works, and that should be obvious. It's the curriculum that works the best, it's the philosophy that works the best. And actually, we already know what that is, and I knew what that was. When I first started the educating process, I had attended public schools, private schools, I'd been homeschooled, and I had attended an elite prep school. And that's kind of what started this whole book series. I attended an elite prep school. I got to see a totally different educational philosophy. I got to see one that worked. We were taking kids that were maybe failing out of public schools, or they'd failed out of other prep schools, maybe the school that I went to. Kids with behavioral problems, just whatever. A lot of rich kids that, some of them were going to go to jail, and their parents were like, it's jail or military school, the judge said, and the parents could afford the prep school, so they sent them to the military boarding school. But from day one, as soon as we arrived on that campus, there was a different atmosphere, a different philosophy, and it worked right away. So too many parents out there think that there's just all these different educational philosophies, and they're all kind of equal, and you just pick one that works best for your family. There is an educational philosophy I do believe that works best for everybody. There's just principles that work best for everybody. And a lot of these new modern ideas in the homeschooling world reflect the conventional wisdom that's already failing in the public schools. In fact, if you look at what most homeschoolers are doing, they're literally just duplicating public school at home. I saw people the other day, a mother talking about getting a curriculum for her daughter to study chemistry in high school. And I was thinking, if you had designed your own curriculum by yourself, just using common sense from what you know as an adult, if you had designed your own curriculum, you probably wouldn't have picked out a huge textbook on chemistry for your daughter, unless she wants to be a scientist or something. So why is this mom all worried about chemistry? Well, they teach that in the public school system and high school, and so we're just duplicating that. I like to use common sense and think, okay, does my kid actually need this? Are they ever going to use it? I took advanced honors chemistry in high school. I've never used it. I can never remember it. As far as I'm concerned, it was a waste of time. I mean, we should probably know some basic things about chemistry, but we don't need a textbook this thick. We're not going to use it. So let's use some common sense. As far as an educational philosophy that works, it's this one. It's the Art of Raising Children for Greatness series. This isn't just something that I came up with. This is a philosophy that's been passed down by the elites for thousands of years. I mean, going all the way back to Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, his dad is a king. He's uniting an empire. He knows his son is going to be the future ruler of the Greeks. And he also knows, because he's been in battles and all sorts of stuff and probably cut other kings' heads off and stuff, he knows what's at stake if his son isn't prepared to rule. So they had these philosophies in place. They knew how to train character. They knew how to educate kids for greatness. Those philosophies were passed down. The monarchs throughout Europe, the Christian monarchies, they educated their kids for greatness. They had certain principles, certain philosophies. Today, the prep schools are still teaching those philosophies, and they're really successful at what they do. So you have that model over here. We know what it is. And then you look at the public school system, it's the complete opposite. So it's not because we don't know how to educate kids for greatness, give them an elite education. The public schools just are refusing to do it. In fact, they're doing the opposite in every respect. And you have to say it can't be because they're ignorant. We're living in the information age. Obama put his kids in an elite prep school. Sidwell Friends, I think he was probably paying $75,000 to $80,000 a year for his two daughters to attend. But he's against school choice. So he knows what a great education looks like. That's why his kids aren't in the public school system. They're in an elite prep school, but he doesn't want that for your kids. So I do think that this is on purpose. So as far as picking a philosophy goes, I would highly recommend ours. My system is just based on the wisdom of the past. It works. A lot of this modern educational philosophy, even the unschooling and stuff, there's like some truth to it and it can work. And when you compare it to the public school system, which is just a dismal failure, probably anything you're doing is going to be better than that. But there are certain principles that work better than others. And I do think it's in this book. So I'm pretty biased. It's not just this book, it's in the series. There's 3 more books coming out that are a part of this series that you'll want to know. And then that said, anything you pick and anything you do from home, you're going to be able to do better than the public school system. So in the worst case scenario, you don't need to feel overwhelmed. Just kind of pick a philosophy, an educational philosophy, pick a curriculum, and you start going with it. It'll work for you. But I also want you to just use common sense. You're an adult. You're living in the real world. You understand what's important, what kids are going to need to know. And if you're looking at a curriculum and it looks more like a trivial pursuit, then trivial means useless, trivial information. If it looks more like a trivial pursuit, just use common sense. It doesn't matter what the public schools are doing. Your kid probably doesn't need a textbook this big on chemistry unless they're going to be a scientist. They don't need it. Just use common sense. Calculus, why are kids taking calculus in high school? Unless they want to be a mathematician or an engineer or something. But why are they just taking that as a standard class? Why? Because they're just duplicating or mimicking what the public schools are doing, but they're not thinking at all. I took AP or honors calculus. I've never used it. I don't think I could solve any problems now. It was a waste of my time. But again, I was just, at the time I was in school, it just seemed like an advanced thing. You're trusting the system is leading you for success. It was a waste of time. I didn't need it. So use common sense. Look for a curriculum that suits your kid. Look for a philosophy that is modeled after, I would say, the prep schools, which is what I talk about in my book, because they are highly successful. It's like there used to be a big debate about what was the best martial art. Was it jiu-jitsu? Was it taekwondo or karate or Muay Thai or boxing? And then they had this great idea. They said, okay, we'll do mixed martial arts. You train in any martial art and we'll put them in a ring, which is the UFC, and they're just going to fight it out. And now we kind of know what the best martial arts are. It's jiu-jitsu and it's Muay Thai kickboxing, because that's what works. That's what beats everybody. So when you look at a great educational philosophy, and you look at the prep schools, they're beating everybody. They're just annihilating everybody. I talked about it in the last video. The last 3 presidents, Bush, Obama, and Trump, and you don't have to like them as people, but they're highly successful. They've reached the pinnacle of success in a career in our society, the most powerful position in our society. Bush, Obama, and now Trump, all prep schoolers. They make up 0.5% of the population, so a tiny percent of the population. They make up the last 5 presidential terms. So the prep schools are doing a phenomenal job. That's why the elites are paying $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year to get their kids into it. It works. So that's, what I would kind of model my homeschool world after. And I do think we can actually do a better job at prep school right here at home. We have so much more freedom. If the prep schools are all about, a small class size, like maybe 5 or 6 or 7 students to one teacher, which is great. But we're one-on-one with our kids. We can do so much more. We have so much more flexibility to our days. We have the ideal environment for education in our homes if we just adopt the right philosophy, which is, I would say, racing children for greatness, like that philosophy. If we adopt that in our homes, we're going to crush it. In fact, I talk about this in the book, and this is the last thing I'll say on that. And I don't want to spoil the book for you, but I talk about how the idea of school originally, one of these elite prep schools, Eton College, today it's one of the greatest, most prestigious prep schools in the world. It was actually started as a charity by King Henry for, I think it was like 70 poor kids to give them an education. But his son certainly wasn't educated there. His son was educated by private tutors, which is what homeschooling parents are, which is what we offer our kids. So private tutoring has always been the superior educational philosophy or method. And if we just combine the focus and the methods of the prep schools and put them in our home, we can rise to the highest levels and be very successful and actually start taking back our country and making some gains, promoting our own values, our own way of life again. Because right now we're just getting overrun. Anyway, so in a nutshell, this is the philosophy I would recommend you adopt. Not just because I wrote the book, but I wrote the book because I believe in the philosophy. It's successful. It's what the elites have done forever. Okay, last thing. Some of you guys have already read the book. Some people have said that they've read the book. They read it in a day, which is amazing. I need reviews. I know most of you are going to take a few weeks to read the book and then get me reviews, and then Amazon process it for a few days or something. But we do want to get some reviews. I would highly appreciate it. It's just a huge favor to us. Most people won't buy books unless they see some sort of reviews. So if you did like it, please, it just takes a few seconds. Review it for us on Amazon. Thank you guys so much. If you have any more questions or comments, put it below, and I'll try to address those. I want to really build up this community. I want to teach you how to raise your children for greatness, so that we have a community, so that my kids have other kids that are being raised for greatness, and we can start networking, even like the prep schools network. And that's one thing that it's not in this book. It's going to be in one of the future books. But one of the cool things about the prep schools is they take the greatest, richest kids, they put them all together, and then they just network. And that's why they're so successful. If we can create a raising children for greatness movement within the homeschool world, our kids could network, and our kids could start just rising the highest levels together. That's kind of why it's important that we develop a movement together, and why I have this group. So, all right, I'm done. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll talk to you guys soon.